The dust cloud trailing behind the eastbound stagecoach caught Austin Edwards' attention as he mended the fence line on his sprawling Texas property. And something about the way the carriage moved with desperate urgency made him drop his tools and shield his eyes against the afternoon sun. It was October 1878, and strangers rarely came through this remote stretch of land, 20 miles west of San Antonio, especially not at such a reckless speed. The stagecoach lurched to a halt near the main road, and even from a distance, Austin could see the driver gesturing frantically toward his modest ranch house. He wiped the sweat from his brow and started walking toward the road, his boots crunching on the dry Texas grass. As he got closer, he noticed a woman stepping down from the carriage, her traveling dress covered in trail dust, her face partially concealed by a dark bonnet. She moved with the careful deliberation of someone carrying an invisible weight, and when the driver handed down a small trunk and a carpet bag, she accepted them with trembling hands. "Madam, you are certain about this?" the driver asked, his weathered face creased with concern. "This is mighty far from anywhere civilized." "I am certain," she replied, her voice barely audible but firm. "Thank you for your kindness." The driver tipped his hat, climbed back onto his perch, and urged the horses forward, leaving the woman standing alone on the side of the road with her meager belongings. Austin quickened his pace, his natural instinct to help overriding his usual preference for solitude. "Madam," he called out as he approached. "Are you lost?" She turned toward him, and Austin felt his breath catch in his throat. Even through the veil of dust and exhaustion, he could see that she was beautiful. Her eyes were a striking shade of blue, though they held a sadness that seemed to extend far beyond simple fatigue. She appeared to be in her early 20s, with dark auburn hair that escaped in wisps from beneath her bonnet. "I am looking for work," she said, her voice steady despite the vulnerability of her position. "The driver mentioned that there might be ranches out this way that needed help. I can cook, clean, tend animals. I am willing to do anything honest." Austin studied her for a moment. She did not look like the typical ranch hand, and her refined manner of speaking suggested an education that seemed at odds with her current circumstances. But he recognized desperation when he saw it, having once worn it himself. "I am Austin Edwards," he said, removing his hat. "This is my land. I do not have much, but I suppose I could use someone to help with the cooking and the house. The place has gotten rather neglected since I have been working it alone." Relief flooded her features, though she kept her composure. "My name is Amanda Ortiz." "I would be grateful for the opportunity, Mr. Edwards." "Just Austin will do fine," he said, reaching for her trunk. "Come on up to the house. You look about ready to collapse from the heat." Amanda followed him across the dusty yard toward a modest wooden house with a covered porch. The ranch itself was simple but well-maintained, with a barn, a corral holding several horses, and fencing that stretched out toward the horizon. Austin noticed how she carried herself with dignity despite her obvious exhaustion, and how she kept one hand pressed against her midsection in a protective gesture that seemed almost unconscious. Inside, the house was sparse but clean enough, with a main room that served as both kitchen and living area, and what appeared to be two smaller rooms branching off to the side. Sunlight filtered through simple curtains, illuminating dust motes in the air. "It is not much," Austin said, setting her trunk down, "but you would have your own room there." He pointed to one of the doors. "I sleep in the other one. There is a pump out back for water, and the privy is about 50 yards behind the house." "It is more than adequate," Amanda said softly. "Thank you." Austin noticed the way she swayed slightly on her feet. "When did you last eat?" "Yesterday morning, I believe." He gestured toward the rough-hewn table. "Sit down before you fall down. I will make you something." "But I am supposed to be the one cooking for you," she protested weakly. "You can start tomorrow. Right now, you need food and rest." Amanda sank into one of the chairs, and Austin busied himself at the stove, heating up some leftover beans and bacon. He cut thick slices of bread from a loaf he had baked 2 days earlier and poured water from a pitcher into a tin cup. As he worked, he stole glances at her, noting the pallor of her skin beneath the dust and the way her hands shook as she removed her bonnet. When he placed the food in front of her, she looked up at him with tears glistening in her eyes. "You are very kind. Just practical," he said gruffly, uncomfortable with gratitude. "Cannot have you fainting on my floor." She ate slowly at first, then with more urgency, as though her body suddenly remembered its hunger. Austin sat across from her with his own plate, eating in silence and trying not to stare. There was something about Amanda Ortiz that stirred feelings in him that had been dormant for years, feelings he had thought were buried along with his dreams of having a family. Austin Edwards had been alone on this ranch for 3 years, ever since his father had died and left him the property. Before that, he had worked cattle drives and cowboy jobs across Texas, saving every penny to build something of his own. He was 26 years old, hardened by sun and labor with few words and fewer friends. The solitude had suited him, or so he had told himself. But watching Amanda eat with such grateful intensity, he realized how much he had missed simple human connection. "So where are you from?" he asked, trying to keep his tone casual. Amanda stiffened slightly. "Back east. Pennsylvania originally. Long way to travel." "Yes." She did not elaborate, and Austin recognized the wall going up between them. Whatever had brought her to this remote corner of Texas, she was not ready to share it. "Well, you are safe here," he said after a moment. "I do not ask questions that people do not want to answer. You work hard, I will pay you fair wages and give you board. That is all that matters." Some of the tension left her shoulders. "Thank you, Austin." The sound of his name on her lips sent an unexpected warmth through his chest. He cleared his throat and stood up, gathering the empty plates. "You should rest. We start early around here, but you can take tomorrow to settle in and get your bearings." "I can start tomorrow," she said quickly. "I do not want charity." "It is not charity, it is common sense. You are exhausted." Amanda rose from her chair, wavering slightly. "I appreciate your concern, but I need to earn my keep. What time would you like breakfast?" Austin recognized the stubborn pride in her voice, the same pride that had driven him through countless difficulties. 5 in the morning. But if you are not ready by then, I can fend for myself." "I will be ready." She gathered her belongings and disappeared into the small room he had indicated. Austin heard the door close softly, and he stood alone in the main room, wondering what had just happened to his quiet, solitary life. That night, Austin lay in his bed, staring at the ceiling and listening to the unfamiliar sounds of another person in his house. He heard Amanda moving around in her room, the soft footsteps and occasional rustle of fabric. At one point he thought he heard crying, but it stopped so quickly he might have imagined it. Sleep came slowly, and when it did, his dreams were filled with sad blue eyes and questions he had no right to ask. The next morning, Austin woke to the smell of coffee and bacon. The sun had not yet risen, and when he emerged from his room, he found Amanda already at the stove, her hair neatly pinned back, wearing a simple work dress that had seen better days but was clean and properly mended. "You did not have to get up this early," he said, surprised. "I told you I would be ready," she replied, not turning from the stove. "Coffee is in the pot, and breakfast will be done in a few minutes." Austin poured himself coffee from the battered tin pot and sat at the table, watching her work with efficient, practiced movements. She had already set out plates and utensils, and there was fresh bread warming near the stove. "You found everything all right," he observed. "You keep things organized. It was easy enough." They ate in comfortable silence as the sun began to paint the Texas sky in shades of pink and gold. Austin noticed that Amanda ate more than she had the night before, which he took as a good sign. The pallor in her cheeks had lessened somewhat, though the sadness in her eyes remained. "What needs doing today?" she asked as she cleared the plates. "I have fences to mend on the north side of the property. There is laundry that needs washing, and the house could use a proper cleaning, but do not push yourself too hard on the first day." "I will manage," she said firmly. Austin studied her for a moment, noting the determined set of her jaw. "All right then. I will be back around noon for lunch." He headed out into the cool morning air, grabbing his tools from the barn and saddling his horse, a sturdy bay mare named Rosie. As he rode out toward the northern fence line, he found his thoughts returning again and again to the mysterious woman now inhabiting his home. There was clearly a story there, a reason why a refined young woman would travel alone to the middle of nowhere seeking any work she could find. But he had meant what he said about not prying. Whatever secrets Amanda carried, they were hers to keep. The morning passed quickly as Austin lost himself in the physical labor of repairing fence posts and restringing wire. The work was hard but satisfying, and he welcomed the distraction from his confused thoughts. Around noon, as promised, he rode back to the house. What he found stopped him in his tracks. The house had been transformed. Every surface gleamed. Windows sparkled in the sunlight, and fresh curtains hung where the old dusty ones had been. The smell of lye soap and lemon oil permeated the air. Amanda stood at the stove, stirring something in a pot, her sleeves rolled up to reveal slender forearms. "Holy hell," Austin muttered, looking around in amazement. Amanda turned, a small smile playing at her lips. It was the first time he had seen her smile, and the effect was devastating. "You said the house needed cleaning." "I meant maybe sweep the floor and dust a bit." "You scrubbed the whole place top to bottom." "It needed it," she said simply. "Lunch is ready if you are hungry." She had made a hearty stew with vegetables and beef, along with more fresh bread. As they ate, Austin found himself studying her more openly, noticing little details. The way she moved with unconscious grace, the education evident in her speech and manners, the strength in her hands despite their delicate appearance. "You did not have to work this hard," he said after a while. "I wanted to earn my place here." Amanda met his eyes directly. "You gave me shelter and food when you did not have to. The least I can do is make your home comfortable." "Well, you have done that and then some." He paused, choosing his words carefully. "But you do not have to prove anything to me, Amanda. You are welcome here regardless." Something flickered across her face, an emotion too complex to name. "That is kind of you to say." "I mean it." They finished the meal in silence, but it was a different quality of silence than before. Something had shifted between them, a tentative thread of connection forming despite the walls they both maintained. The days that followed settled into a comfortable routine. Austin worked the ranch from dawn until dusk, mending fences, tending cattle, breaking horses, and doing the countless other tasks that came with managing property alone. Amanda transformed his house into a home, cooking meals that made him remember what it was like to look forward to the end of a workday, keeping everything clean and organized, and even beginning a small vegetable garden near the house. They spoke little at first, communicating mostly through actions rather than words. But slowly, gradually, conversations began to develop. Austin learned that Amanda had been educated at a finishing school, that she had a love of literature, and could quote poetry from memory. Amanda learned that Austin had taught himself to read using an old Bible and whatever newspapers he could get his hands on, that he loved the land with a fierce passion, and that despite his rough exterior, he had a gentle hand with animals and a dry sense of humor that occasionally surprised her into laughter. What Austin did not know, what Amanda kept carefully hidden, was the secret that had driven her from her old life, the shame she carried like a stone in her heart, the reason she kept one hand pressed protectively against her midsection when she thought no one was watching. 3 weeks into her stay, on a crisp November morning, Austin returned to the house earlier than usual to find Amanda bent over the water basin, retching violently. She did not hear him come in, and he stood frozen in the doorway, watching as she straightened up, pressing a wet cloth to her pale face. Then she turned and saw him, and the look of horror that crossed her features told him everything he needed to know. "How far along?" he asked quietly. Amanda's face crumpled and she gripped the edge of the basin to keep from falling. "Please," she whispered, "please do not make me leave." Austin stepped into the room, his heart pounding. "I am not going to make you leave, but I need to know. How far along are you? 4 months, I think." "Maybe 5. Tears streamed down her face. "I tried to hide it, but I am starting to show, and the sickness comes at strange times." He moved closer, gently guiding her to a chair. "Sit down before you fall down, and then I want you to tell me everything." Amanda sat, her whole body trembling. "I cannot." "Yes, you can." Austin knelt beside the chair, looking up into her devastated face. "Whatever happened, whatever shame you think you carry, you can tell me. I am not going to judge you. You will hate me. Try me." For a long moment, Amanda simply sat there, her chest heaving with suppressed sobs. Then, slowly, haltingly, the words began to come. "His name was Charles Weston. He was the son of the family I worked for back in Philadelphia. I was a governess to his younger siblings." Her voice was barely audible. "He was charming and attentive, and I was foolish enough to believe his promises. He said he loved me, that he would marry me despite our different stations. I believed him." Austin listened without interrupting, his face carefully neutral. "When I told him about the baby, everything changed. He called me terrible names, accused me of trying to trap him. His family dismissed me immediately without references. They paid me a sum of money and told me to disappear, to never speak their name again." She laughed bitterly. "As if I would want to be associated with them after what they did. So you came here." "I had nowhere else to go. No family, no friends who would take me in. A woman with child and no husband is ruined in society. I thought maybe in the West, where things are rougher and people do not ask as many questions, I could start over, find work, raise my child alone if I had to." She looked at him with desperate eyes. "I know I should have told you from the beginning. I know I deceived you by not mentioning it. But I was so afraid, and you were so kind, and I just wanted a few weeks of peace before everything fell apart again." Austin stood up and paced across the room, running his hand through his hair. Amanda watched him with the expression of someone waiting for a blow to fall. "So this Weston," Austin said finally, "he is not coming after you, no. He made it very clear he wants nothing to do with me or the baby. And you have no intention of going back to Philadelphia. Never. There is nothing for me there." Austin turned to face her, his expression intense. "Then here is what is going to happen. You are going to stay right here on this ranch. You are going to have your baby safely, and you are going to stop looking at me like I am about to throw you out into the dirt." Amanda stared at him in disbelief. "But I am ruined. I am having a child out of wedlock. That makes me a fallen woman in the eyes of anyone who knows." "Then we will not tell anyone," Austin said simply. "As far as the world is concerned, you are my wife. We met back east, married quickly, and came here to start fresh. Women show at different times. We can make the timeline work. You would lie for me, risk your own reputation. What reputation? Austin laughed harshly. I am a dirt farmer barely scraping by on inherited land. I do not go to town social events. I do not have friends who drop by for visits. The only people who ever see this ranch are the occasional supply driver, and they do not care about anything except getting paid and moving on. But why would you do this for me? You barely know me. Austin crossed back to her and knelt again, taking her cold hands in his work-roughened ones. Because you deserve better than what that bastard and his family did to you. Because you have worked harder in 3 weeks than most people work in 3 months. Because when you smile, which is rare enough, it lights up this whole damn house. And because, he paused, gathering his courage, because I care about what happens to you, Amanda. More than I probably should after such a short time. Fresh tears spilled down her cheeks, but these were different. I do not deserve your kindness. Yes, you do, every bit of it and more. He squeezed her hands gently. You did not do anything wrong. You trusted someone who proved unworthy of that trust. That is his failing, not yours. Society would not see it that way. Society can go to hell as far as I am concerned. Amanda let out a watery laugh, the first genuine laugh he had heard from her. You are a surprising man, Austin Edwards. I have my moments. He stood up, pulling her gently to her feet. Now, here is what we are going to do today. You are going to rest because you look like death warmed over. I am going to ride into San Antonio and purchase a wedding ring. When I come back, we are going to have a long talk about how we want to handle this situation going forward. And tomorrow, we start our new life as husband and wife, at least in the eyes of anyone who asks. This is too much, Amanda protested. You are sacrificing your freedom, your chance to marry someone you actually love. Austin looked at her steadily. Who says I am sacrificing anything? The weight of his words hung in the air between them. Amanda searched his face, seeing something there that made her breath catch. Austin. Rest, he said softly. We will talk more when I get back. He left before she could respond, saddling Rosie and riding hard toward San Antonio. The 40-mile round trip would take most of the day, but he needed the time to think anyway. His heart was racing, his mind reeling with what he had just committed to. A wife. A child that was not his own. A marriage that was a fiction covering a truth that could ruin them both if discovered. And yet, as he rode through the Texas landscape, watching the sun climb higher in the cloudless sky, Austin felt something he had not felt in years. Purpose. Hope. The sense that his solitary existence had been leading somewhere after all. He had not been entirely honest with Amanda. It was not just kindness that motivated his offer. Over the past 3 weeks, she had become essential to him in ways he was only beginning to understand. The sound of her moving around the house. The way she hummed softly while cooking. The rare smiles that transformed her sad face into something luminous. The intelligence and strength he saw in her despite the circumstances that had brought her so low. He wanted to protect her, yes. But more than that, he wanted to know her. To break through the walls they both maintained and discover the woman beneath the shame and fear. To perhaps, if he was very lucky, build something real from this arrangement born of necessity. In San Antonio, Austin went straight to the jeweler, a small shop tucked between a general store and a saloon. The proprietor, an elderly man named Greenstein, looked up from his workbench with curiosity. "Help you, young man. I need a wedding ring," Austin said. Simple but well made. Greenstein raised an eyebrow. "Getting married, are we?" "Already married," Austin lied smoothly. "But we had to do it quick, and I did not have time to get a proper ring. Want to remedy that now." The jeweler nodded, pulling out a tray of rings in various styles and sizes. Austin selected a simple gold band that looked like it would fit Amanda's slender finger, along with a matching one for himself. He paid with most of the money he had been saving for winter supplies, but he did not hesitate. On the ride back, he rehearsed what he would say. How he would explain that this did not have to be just a practical arrangement, that if she was willing, they could build something real together. That he knew it was fast, probably too fast, but sometimes life did not wait for perfect timing. He arrived back at the ranch as the sun was setting, painting the sky in brilliant oranges and purples. Amanda met him on the porch, her face anxious. "I was getting worried," she said. "That is a long ride to make in one day." "I am all right." He dismounted, tying Rosie to the porch rail. "Did you rest some?" "Mostly I paced and worried and tried to figure out what I am going to say to you." Austin pulled the small box from his pocket and handed it to her. "Maybe start with this." Amanda opened the box, her eyes widening at the sight of the rings. "Austin, these are beautiful. Simple, like us." He took the smaller ring out and held it up. "May I?" She extended her left hand and he slid the ring onto her finger. It fit perfectly, the gold warm against her pale skin. Then Amanda took the other ring and with trembling fingers placed it on his hand. The gesture felt more real than any ceremony could have. "There," Austin said softly. "Now we look the part." They stood on the porch as darkness fell, neither quite knowing what to say. Finally, Amanda broke the silence. "I need you to understand something. I am grateful beyond words for what you are doing, but I do not expect anything from you beyond the protection of your name. This can be a marriage in name only. I will not hold you to any obligations, and I will not be offended if you choose to seek companionship elsewhere." "And what if I do not want it to be in name only?" Amanda's head snapped up, her eyes searching his face. "What are you saying?" "I am saying that I care about you, Amanda. I know it has only been 3 weeks. I know the timing is terrible and the circumstances are complicated. But I cannot shake the feeling that you came into my life for a reason." He took her hand, careful of the new ring. "I am not asking you to love me right away. I know you have been through hell and your trust has been broken. But I am asking you to consider the possibility that this could become something real, something good." "I do not know if I can trust my own judgment anymore," she whispered. "I was so wrong about Charles. What if I am wrong about you? Then we will figure it out together." "But Amanda, I am not him. I will not make promises I cannot keep. I will not use you and cast you aside. Whatever happens between us, I will stand by you and that child. That is my vow, and I mean it with everything I am." Tears streamed down her face again, but she was smiling through them. "I do not deserve you. Stop saying that." Austin gently cupped her face, wiping away tears with his thumbs. "You deserve everything good this world has to offer, and if I can give you even a fraction of that, I will count myself lucky." "I am afraid," she admitted. "So am I." "What if I cannot love you the way you deserve?" "What if you can?" He smiled. "We have time, Amanda. We do not have to figure everything out tonight. Let us just take this one day at a time and see where it leads." She nodded slowly, then surprised him by leaning forward and pressing a gentle kiss to his cheek. "Thank you, Austin, for everything." His skin burned where her lips had touched. "You are welcome." They went inside together, and for the first time since Amanda had arrived, Austin felt like they were building something rather than just surviving. The future was uncertain, but for the first time in longer than he could remember, he looked forward to it. Over the following weeks, their relationship deepened in ways both subtle and profound. Amanda's pregnancy became more obvious as November turned to December, but out on the isolated ranch, there was no one to see or judge. Austin found himself fascinated by the changes in her body, the way she unconsciously rested her hand on her growing belly, the way her face softened when she felt the baby move. "You want to feel?" she asked one evening as they sat by the fire after dinner. Austin had been hesitant to intrude on something so personal, but her invitation made his heart skip. "Are you sure?" "Yes. Come here." He moved to sit beside her on the old sofa he had dragged in from the barn and restored. Amanda took his hand and placed it on the swell of her stomach. For a moment there was nothing. Then he felt it, a small but unmistakable flutter beneath his palm. "That is amazing," he breathed. Amanda smiled, watching his face. "The baby has been more active lately. I think it likes the sound of your voice. Whenever you are reading aloud in the evenings, there is always movement." The idea that this child, not even born yet, might already know and respond to him created an ache in Austin's chest that was equal parts joy and longing. "Have you thought about names?" "Some. But I thought perhaps we could choose together, if you want to be involved in that decision." "I would like that very much." They stayed like that for a long time, Austin's hand on Amanda's belly, feeling the small movements of the life growing within her. It was intimate in a way that had nothing to do with physical desire, and everything to do with shared wonder. As winter settled over Texas, bringing cooler temperatures and occasional rain, the ranch house became a warm haven against the outside world. Austin taught Amanda to ride, carefully helping her onto the gentlest horse he owned and leading her around the corral. Amanda taught Austin to appreciate literature, reading aloud from books she had brought in her trunk, stories that transported them far from their simple surroundings. They talked for hours in front of the fire, sharing their pasts more openly. Austin told her about his father, a hard man who had nevertheless taught him the value of honest work. About his mother, who had died when he was 12, leaving a hole in their lives that never quite healed. About his determination to build something lasting, something that would outlive him. Amanda spoke of her childhood in Pennsylvania, the daughter of a schoolteacher who had died when she was 15. How she had worked various jobs to support herself, eventually landing the position as governess that had led to her downfall. How she loved learning but had been denied further education because of her gender and lack of means. "You should have been a teacher yourself," Austin said one night. "You have the mind for it and the patience." "Perhaps someday," Amanda said wistfully. "Maybe when the baby is older I could teach the children of neighboring ranches, if there are any." "We are pretty isolated out here," Austin admitted. Nearest ranch with children is 15 miles south, and they have a schoolmarm already. But who knows what the future holds? As Christmas approached, Austin surprised Amanda by riding into San Antonio again and returning with a small pine tree. He set it up in the main room, and together they decorated it with paper ornaments Amanda made and strings of dried berries. "I have not had a Christmas tree since I was a child," Amanda said, her eyes shining. "This is wonderful." "Everyone should have a Christmas tree," Austin said. "Especially this year." On Christmas morning, he gave her a beautiful shawl he had purchased from a Mexican woman in town, soft wool dyed in rich colors. Amanda gave him a shirt she had sewn herself, the stitching perfect, the fabric the same blue as his eyes. "I love it," he said, genuinely touched. "I cannot remember the last time someone made something just for me." "You have given me so much," Amanda said softly. "I wanted to give you something in return. You have given me far more than you know." They spent the day together in comfortable companionship, and when evening came, Austin worked up the courage to kiss her properly for the first time. It was gentle and tentative, a question more than a demand. Amanda responded by wrapping her arms around his neck and deepening the kiss, showing him without words that she was beginning to trust again, beginning to hope. "I am falling in love with you," she whispered against his lips. I did not think I could ever feel this way again, but you have shown me what real love looks like, patient and kind and steady. I have loved you since the day you arrived, Austin confessed. I just did not have the words for it until now. They held each other as the fire burned low. Two lonely people who had found an unexpected home in each other's arms. January brought colder weather, and the growing realization that Amanda's time was drawing near. Austin prepared the house as best he could, laying in extra supplies and making arrangements with the doctor in San Antonio to come when the baby arrived. The doctor, a practical man named Harrison, asked no questions about the timeline of the pregnancy, simply agreed to make the journey when summoned. It should be within the next month, he told Austin after examining Amanda. She is healthy and strong. I expect a normal delivery, but send for me at the first signs of labor. Even with good weather, it will take me several hours to get here. After the doctor left, Amanda paced the house nervously. What if something goes wrong? Women die in childbirth all the time, Austin. Nothing is going to go wrong, he said firmly, though his own fear made his heart race. You are healthy. The doctor said so, and I will be right here with you every step of the way. Promise me something. Amanda gripped his hands. If it comes down to a choice between me and the baby, you save the baby. Promise me. No. Austin, please. No, he repeated, more forcefully this time. I am not promising that because it is not a choice I am going to have to make. You are both going to be fine, and I will not entertain any other possibility. His certainty seemed to calm her, and she leaned against him, drawing strength from his unwavering support. The baby came on a cold February morning, 3 weeks after Amanda's conversation with the doctor. Austin woke to find Amanda gripping the bed frame in her room, her face pale but determined. It is time, she said simply. Austin sprang into action, helping her to the bed they had prepared, stoking the fire to heat water, sending the ranch hand he had recently hired racing toward San Antonio to fetch Dr. Harrison. Then, there was nothing to do but wait and help as best he could. Amanda labored through the morning and into the afternoon, her strength and courage astounding Austin even as his own fear mounted. He held her hand, wiped her brow, and spoke soft words of encouragement, feeling utterly helpless in the face of her pain. Dr. Harrison arrived just as the sun began to set, taking charge with calm efficiency. You are doing wonderfully, Mrs. Edwards, he said to Amanda. Not much longer now. As darkness fell outside, Amanda gave one final, tremendous push, and the sound of a baby's cry filled the room. Austin felt tears stream down his face as the doctor announced, "It is a boy, a healthy, strong boy." The doctor cleaned the baby and wrapped him in blankets, then placed the squirming bundle in Amanda's arms. She looked down at her son with an expression of such fierce love and exhaustion that Austin felt his heart might burst. "He is perfect," she whispered. "Austin, look at him. He is perfect." Austin moved closer, gazing down at the tiny face, the shock of dark hair, the impossibly small fingers that were already trying to grip Amanda's thumb. "He is beautiful. You are both beautiful. Would you like to hold him?" Amanda asked. With trembling hands, Austin accepted the baby, cradling the small weight carefully. The infant's eyes opened, dark and unfocused, and Austin felt a surge of protective love so intense it nearly knocked him breathless. This child might not share his blood, but he was Austin's son in every way that mattered. "Hello, little one," he murmured. "Welcome to the world." Dr. Harrison finished caring for Amanda, giving instructions for her recovery, and accepted payment for his services. Before he left, he shook Austin's hand. "You have a beautiful family, Edwards. Congratulations." After the doctor departed, Austin sat beside Amanda's bed, the baby sleeping peacefully in his arms. Amanda watched them both, her eyes soft with emotion. "What should we name him?" she asked. They had discussed names over the winter but never settled on one. Now, looking at the tiny person they were responsible for, Austin knew exactly what felt right. "Alexander," he said. "Alexander James Edwards. We can call him Alex." "Alexander," Amanda repeated, testing the name. "I love it. It is strong and dignified, but warm too, like you." "Like us," Austin corrected gently. "He is ours, Amanda, not just yours or just mine. Ours." She reached out and took his free hand. "I love you, Austin Edwards. I do not think I have said those words plainly enough. But I love you with everything I am. You took in a desperate, frightened woman and gave her hope again. You gave me a reason to smile when I thought I would never smile again. And now you have given my son a father when he had none." "Our son," Austin corrected again. "And you have given me a family, a purpose beyond just surviving day to day. You have given me everything I ever wanted but never thought I would have." They sat together through the night, taking turns holding baby Alexander, marveling at his tiny features, his small sounds, the miracle of his existence. As dawn broke over the Texas landscape, painting the sky in shades of gold and pink, Austin felt a profound sense of contentment settle over him. The months that followed were challenging in ways Austin had never experienced. Alexander proved to be a healthy baby but a demanding one, waking frequently through the night and requiring constant care. Amanda recovered slowly from the birth, and Austin found himself taking on tasks he had never imagined, from changing dirty cloths to walking the floor at 3 in the morning with a crying infant. But through the exhaustion and the chaos, their bond only strengthened. They worked as a team, supporting each other through the difficult moments and celebrating the small victories together. The first time Alexander smiled, a real intentional smile directed at Austin as he made silly faces, they both laughed with delight. When Alexander began to recognize their voices and reach for them with his tiny hands, they felt their hearts expand with love. Spring brought new life to the ranch, and with it came challenges of a different sort. Austin had let some of his work slide during Amanda's pregnancy and Alexander's birth, and now there was a mountain of tasks to catch up on. But Amanda, once she was fully recovered, refused to let him face it alone. She worked alongside him when Alexander napped, helping with repairs and even learning to handle some of the lighter ranch duties. "You do not have to do this," Austin protested one afternoon as she helped him mend a section of corral fencing. "Taking care of Alex is more than enough." "I want to help," Amanda insisted. "This is our ranch, our life together. I am not going to sit in the house while you work yourself into the ground." Her determination reminded him of why he had fallen in love with her in the first place. Amanda Ortiz Edwards was a fighter, a survivor, someone who faced adversity with her head held high. One warm April evening, as they sat on the porch watching the sunset with Alexander sleeping between them in a basket, Austin broached a subject that had been on his mind. "I have been thinking about expanding the ranch," he said. "Maybe buying some more cattle, hiring another hand or two. If we work hard for the next few years, we could build this into something really substantial, something to pass on to Alex and any other children we might have." Amanda looked at him with surprise and pleasure. "Other children, if you want them," Austin said carefully. "I know pregnancy and birth were hard on you, but I would love to have more children with you. Brothers and sisters for Alex, a house full of noise and chaos." He smiled. "Though I understand if you would rather not go through that again." "I would love to have more children," Amanda said softly. "I always imagined a big family, and now that I know how wonderful you are with Alexander, I cannot imagine anything better than giving him siblings." They kissed as the sun dipped below the horizon, a sweet promise of the future they were building together. The summer of 1879 brought prosperity to the Edwards Ranch. Austin's hard work began to pay off as his cattle herd grew, and neighboring ranchers took notice of the quality of his stock. He made several good sales, and the money allowed him to make improvements to the property. He expanded the barn, built a proper chicken coop for the hens Amanda had begun raising, and even added a room onto the house in preparation for a growing family. Alexander thrived, growing from a tiny infant into a robust baby who smiled easily and seemed to take delight in everything around him. His first word was "Da," directed at Austin, and Amanda swore she had never seen her husband look so proud. In October, a year after Amanda had first arrived at the ranch, Austin organized a small celebration. They had no neighbors close enough to invite, but that did not matter. He prepared a special dinner, presented Amanda with a beautiful locket containing a tiny portrait of Alexander that he had commissioned during a trip to San Antonio, and made a toast to their family. "1 year ago, a dusty carriage deposited the best thing that ever happened to me at the side of the road," he said, raising his glass. "I was a lonely cowboy barely living, just existing from one day to the next. You gave me a reason to smile again, Amanda. You gave me everything. Here is to many more years together." "To many more years," Amanda echoed, her eyes shining with tears of joy. "And to the lonely cowboy who saw past my shame and gave me hope when I had none." That night, after Alexander was asleep in his new room, Amanda came to Austin's room, now their room, and they made love with a tenderness and passion that expressed everything words could not. Their marriage, which had begun as a necessary fiction, had become the truest thing in either of their lives. By Christmas of 1879, Amanda was pregnant again. This time, there was no fear or shame, only excitement and joy. They told Alexander, though at barely 10 months old he did not understand, that he was going to be a big brother. "I hope for a girl this time," Amanda said as they decorated another Christmas tree. "A little sister for Alex." "As long as you and the baby are healthy, I do not care either way," Austin said. "Though a daughter would be wonderful. If she is anything like her mother, I am in trouble." "What do you mean?" "I mean I will spend my whole life fighting off boys who want to court her because she will be too beautiful and too smart for her own good." Amanda laughed, that free, genuine laugh that Austin loved so much. "You are ridiculous, maybe, but I am your ridiculous." "Yes, you are. And I would not have it any other way." The new baby, a daughter they named Annie Rose Edwards, arrived in July of 1880 on a day so hot that even the lizards sought shade. The birth was easier than Alexander's had been, and Dr. Harrison pronounced both mother and daughter in excellent health. Austin fell in love all over again, this time with a tiny girl who had Amanda's blue eyes and a rosebud mouth that seemed made for smiling. Alexander, now nearly 18 months old, was fascinated by his baby sister, constantly wanting to touch her soft hair and hold her with Austin's careful supervision. "Our family is complete," Amanda said one evening as Austin held Annie while Amanda read to Alexander. "I never imagined I could be this happy." "Neither did I," Austin admitted. "There were times before you came when I wondered what the point was, working day after day on this ranch with no one to share it with. But now I understand. I was building this for you, for them. I just did not know it yet." As the years passed, the Edwards Ranch became known throughout the region for its quality cattle and the hard-working family that ran it. Austin hired several hands to help with the growing operation, and Amanda became known for her hospitality, always making sure the men had good meals and comfortable lodgings in the bunkhouse Austin built. Alexander grew into a bright, curious boy who followed his father everywhere, learning the ways of the ranch. Annie proved to be fearless and stubborn, with a love of horses that rivaled Austin's own. In 1882, Amanda gave birth to another son, Thomas, and in 1885, another daughter named Grace arrived, making their family complete. The house that had once seemed too big for one lonely cowboy now rang with laughter and arguments, with the sound of children playing and Amanda singing as she worked. Austin expanded it twice more, adding bedrooms and a larger kitchen to accommodate their growing family. One evening in the spring of 1886, nearly 8 years after Amanda had first arrived, Austin and Amanda sat on the porch watching their children play in the yard. Alexander, at 7 years old, was teaching Annie to rope a fence post. Thomas toddled after them, his chubby legs pumping as he tried to keep up. Grace slept in Amanda's arms, her tiny fist curled around her mother's finger. "You ever think about Philadelphia?" Austin asked. "About the life you left behind?" "Sometimes," Amanda admitted, "but only to marvel at how far I have come. That frightened girl who arrived here with nothing but shame and desperation feels like a different person entirely." She was not so different. She had the same strength and courage you have now. She just needed the right circumstances to let it show. "She needed you," Amanda corrected gently. "You saw something in me worth saving when I could not see it myself." "We saved each other," Austin said, taking her free hand. "I was dying out here, Amanda. Maybe not physically, but inside where it counts. You brought me back to life." They sat in comfortable silence, watching the sun paint the sky in brilliant colors, listening to their children's laughter mix with the evening birdsong. "You have any regrets?" Amanda asked after a while. Austin considered the question carefully. "Only one. I regret that I cannot go back in time and tell that scared, lonely cowboy that everything is going to work out better than he ever imagined. That the dusty woman stepping down from that carriage would become the love of his life. That they would build something real and lasting together, something worth all the struggles and hard times." "You are going to make me cry," Amanda said, her voice thick with emotion. "Good tears, I hope." "The best tears." She leaned her head against his shoulder. "I love you, Austin Edwards, with everything I am and everything I will ever be. I love you too, always have, always will." As darkness settled over the ranch and the stars began to emerge one by one, they called their children inside for dinner. The table that had once served meals for one now required extra benches to accommodate their family. The house that had echoed with loneliness now rang with the chaos of bedtime routines and goodnight kisses. Later, after the children were all asleep, Austin and Amanda lay in bed together, Amanda's head resting on Austin's chest, his arm wrapped securely around her. "Thank you," Amanda whispered into the darkness. "For what? For everything. For taking a chance on a desperate stranger, for giving me and Alexander a home, for loving me despite my past, for building this life with me. You do not have to thank me for any of that. It has been my privilege. Still, I want you to know what it means to me. You gave me a reason to smile again when I thought I would never smile again. You showed me that shame does not have to define me, that the past does not have to destroy the future." Austin tightened his arm around her. "You did the same for me. You taught me that being alone and being lonely are not the same thing, and that opening your heart to someone is worth the risk." They fell asleep holding each other, two people who had found an unexpected love in the harsh beauty of the Texas frontier. The years continued to pass, marked by the changing seasons and the growing of their children. Alexander proved to have his father's love of ranching and his mother's sharp mind, becoming Austin's right hand as he grew older. Annie developed into an accomplished rider and eventually married a neighboring rancher's son in 1896, giving Amanda and Austin their first grandchild by 1897. Thomas showed an interest in books and learning, eventually leaving the ranch to attend college in Austin, something that filled Amanda with pride even as she missed him. Grace, the baby of the family, inherited her father's quiet strength and her mother's determination, working alongside her father and older brother to keep the ranch running smoothly. Through boom times and lean years, through droughts and floods, through sickness and health, Austin and Amanda stood together. The ranch prospered under their careful stewardship, growing from a modest spread into one of the most successful operations in the region. On October 15, 1898, exactly 20 years after Amanda had first arrived, Austin planned a special celebration. Their children, including Annie with her husband and baby daughter, gathered at the ranch house. Austin had hired help from town to prepare an elaborate meal, and he presented Amanda with a beautiful new ring to mark 2 decades of marriage. 20 years, he said as they stood together on the porch where they had shared so many moments. It feels like both a lifetime and no time at all. The best 20 years of my life, Amanda said, admiring the ring. You did not have to do this, you know. You have already given me everything I could ever want. I wanted to mark the occasion, to honor the woman who stepped off that carriage 2 decades ago and changed my life forever. Their children and grandchildren applauded, and Austin continued, his voice growing thick with emotion. I was not sure what I was doing that day when I offered you work. I just knew that you needed help, and I had help to give. I never imagined that simple act would lead to all of this. A family, a legacy, a love that has sustained me through everything. You saved my life, Amanda said, tears streaming down her face. Not just from the immediate crisis I faced, but from a future of shame and despair. You gave me dignity when society said I deserved none. You gave me love when I thought I was unworthy of it. And you gave my children, all of them, a father who shows them every day what a good man looks like. Alexander stepped forward, now a strapping young man of 20. I know I was too young to remember the circumstances of how our family came together, but I have always known that Pa loved me as his own from the first moment he held me. He never made me feel like anything but his son, his firstborn. That is the measure of a man, and I hope I can be half the father to my future children that he has been to me. Austin pulled his son into a tight embrace, followed by each of his other children in turn. Then he gathered Amanda into his arms, holding her as the sunset painted the sky behind them in shades of gold and crimson. Later that night, after the guests had departed and the house had settled into quiet, Austin and Amanda walked hand in hand around the ranch. They visited the barn where Austin had first taught Amanda to ride, the corral where they had watched Alexander take his first steps, the garden Amanda had planted all those years ago, now expanded and flourishing. You remember how terrified I was that first day? Amanda asked as they walked. How certain I was that any moment you would realize what a burden I was and send me away. I remember thinking you were the bravest person I had ever met, Austin said. Traveling alone to the middle of nowhere, willing to work any job, determined to build a future for yourself and your child despite everything stacked against you. I did not feel brave. Bravery is not the absence of fear. It is moving forward despite the fear. You did that every single day. They stopped at the fence line, looking out over the land that had been their livelihood and their home for 2 decades. The moon rose full and bright, illuminating the landscape in silver light. What do you think the future holds for us? Amanda asked. More grandchildren, I hope. watching our children build their own lives and families. Growing old together on this land we have worked so hard to build, sitting on that porch in our 80s and telling stories to great-grandchildren about the old days. That sounds perfect. It does not it? Austin turned to face her, taking both her hands in his. Amanda Edwards, you are the best thing that ever happened to me. Every day with you has been a gift. Every moment has been worth whatever struggles we have faced. I would not change a single thing about our life together. Not even the hard times. The years when money was tight and we did not know if we would make it. Not even those. Because we faced them together and they made us stronger. They taught us what we are capable of when we have love and determination on our side. Amanda reached up and cupped his weathered face in her hands. I love you, Austin Edwards. I loved you when I was a frightened girl with nowhere to turn. I loved you as a new mother learning to trust again. I loved you through every season and every challenge. And I will love you until my last breath and beyond. And I will love you just as long, Austin promised. You gave me a reason to smile again when I had forgotten how. You filled my empty house and my empty heart. You made me a husband and a father, roles I cherish more than anything else in this world. They kissed under the moonlight, a kiss that held 20 years of shared history, of struggles overcome and joys celebrated, of a love that had started as unlikely salvation and grown into something enduring and true. As they walked back to the house, arms around each other, Austin reflected on the journey that had brought them to this moment. A dusty carriage on a remote road, a desperate woman with a secret shame, a lonely cowboy with a good heart, two broken people who had found healing in each other. It was a simple story in many ways, the kind that played out countless times across the frontier. A story of hardship and hope, of judgment and grace, of isolation and connection. But it was their story, and it had shaped everything they had become. The house rose before them, lights glowing warmly in the windows. Inside, their children slept in rooms that had been built with love and filled with laughter. Tomorrow, they would wake and face whatever challenges the new day brought, together as they always had been. But tonight, Austin and Amanda stood on the threshold of their home, looking back at the path they had walked and forward to the future still unfolding. They had built something that would outlast them, a legacy not just of land and cattle but of love and family, of second chances and new beginnings. Ready to go in? Austin asked. With you, always, Amanda replied. They stepped inside together, closing the door on the past and embracing the present, two souls who had found in each other everything they had been searching for. The lonely cowboy had given the frightened woman a reason to smile again, and in doing so, he had discovered his own joy. The woman who had arrived carrying shame had shed that burden and found instead dignity, love, and purpose. It was not the ending either of them could have predicted or planned. It was something better, something real, something that had grown from necessity into choice, from survival into flourishing. It was a love story written in the harsh beauty of the Texas frontier, a testament to the power of compassion and the resilience of the human heart. And as they lay together that night, listening to the familiar sounds of their home, knowing their children were safe under their roof, Austin and Amanda thanked whatever force had brought that carriage to a stop on a dusty road 20 years before. That moment had changed everything, transforming two lonely people into a family, fear into courage, shame into pride. The ranch would continue through their children and grandchildren, a living monument to what two people could build when they faced the world together. But more than land or legacy, Austin and Amanda had created something precious and rare, a partnership based on mutual respect, unwavering support, and a love that had weathered every storm. As sleep claimed them, they did so with smiles on their faces and peace in their hearts, secure in the knowledge that they had found their home not just in a place but in each other. The lonely cowboy and the woman with a secret shame had written their own happy ending, and it was better than either could have dreamed. The years continued to unfold with the rhythm of ranch life. By 1905, Austin and Amanda had 6 grandchildren, with more on the way. The ranch had expanded to include several thousand acres, managed by Alexander with Austin's guidance and Grace's tireless work. Thomas had become a lawyer in Austin, returning home regularly with his wife and 2 children. Annie's family lived on the neighboring ranch, close enough for frequent visits. On their 30th anniversary, surrounded by 3 generations of family, Austin stood to make a toast. He was 54 now, his hair silver, his face lined by sun and time, but his eyes still held the same steady warmth that had first made Amanda feel safe all those years ago. 30 years ago, I was a man who had resigned himself to being alone. I worked hard, kept my head down, and told myself that was enough. Then a carriage stopped on the road near my property, and everything changed. The woman who stepped down from that carriage was carrying heavy burdens, but she was also carrying hope, even if she did not know it yet. She taught me that it is never too late to build a life, that family is not just about blood, and that love can grow from the most unexpected circumstances. He looked at Amanda, who sat beside him with tears in her eyes. "You gave me everything, Amanda. Every single good thing in my life traces back to you. Our children, our grandchildren, the success of this ranch, the joy I feel every morning when I wake up beside you. I was existing before you came. With you, I learned to truly live." Amanda stood and embraced him, and their children and grandchildren erupted in applause. Later, as they stood once more on their beloved porch, watching the sun set over land they had worked and loved for 3 decades, Amanda spoke softly. "I never told you this, but on that carriage ride, I had moments where I thought about just disappearing, walking off into the wilderness and letting it claim me. I felt so worthless, so destroyed by what had happened. I could not see any path forward." Austin pulled her closer, his heart aching at the thought of a world without her. "But then the carriage stopped, and I saw you walking toward me. Something in your face, in the way you moved, told me I was going to be all right. I did not know how or why, but I felt it. You were my angel that day, Austin, sent when I needed saving most." "And you were mine," Austin said. "We saved each other." They stayed on the porch until the stars emerged, talking quietly about the past and the future, making plans for the ranch and dreaming about the great-grandchildren they hoped to meet someday. The night air was cool and sweet, carrying the scent of mesquite and wildflowers. In 1910, they celebrated their 32nd anniversary with a quieter gathering. Austin's health had begun to decline, his years of hard labor taking their toll, but his mind remained sharp, and his love for Amanda never wavered. On good days, they still walked the property together, hand in hand, remembering all the moments that had shaped their journey. "I have had a good life," Austin told her one evening. "Better than I deserved. Every day with you has been a blessing." "Do not talk like that," Amanda said, though she knew the time for such conversations was approaching. "We have many more years together." "Maybe. But if we do not, I want you to know something. I want you to know that loving you has been the greatest privilege of my life. That raising our children together has brought me more joy than I knew existed. That every sacrifice, every hardship, every challenge we faced was worth it because we faced it together." "Austin," Amanda's voice broke. "I am not afraid," he said gently. "How could I be? I have lived a full, rich life. I have seen my children grow and thrive. I have held my grandchildren. I have loved and been loved by the most remarkable woman I have ever known. If my time is shorter than we hoped, I am still grateful for every moment we had." They held each other as the stars wheeled overhead, two people who had walked through life as true partners, facing every joy and sorrow side by side. Austin lived another 8 years, long enough to see more grandchildren born and to celebrate their 40th anniversary in 1918. He passed peacefully in his sleep in November of that year, Amanda beside him as she had been for 4 decades. The funeral drew people from across the region, ranchers and townspeople who had known Austin as a fair dealer and a good man. But it was Alexander who spoke most movingly about his father. "My father was not a man of grand gestures or flowery words. He showed his love through action. He took in a woman and child who had nowhere else to turn, and he made us his family. He never once made me feel like anything but his son. He taught me everything I know about ranching, about integrity, about what it means to be a man. But more than that, he showed me what true love looks like. The way he looked at my mother every single day, even after 40 years, like she was the most precious thing in his world. That is the legacy I hope to carry forward." Amanda lived another 12 years, surrounded by her children and grandchildren, watching the ranch continue to prosper under Alexander's management. She never remarried, telling anyone who asked that she had already lived a great love story and needed no other. She spent her final years documenting the history of the ranch, writing down stories for future generations about the early days, the struggles and triumphs, the building of something lasting from almost nothing. But mostly she wrote about Austin, about the lonely cowboy who had given her a reason to smile again. In the spring of 1930, at the age of 72, Amanda passed away peacefully in the same house where she had given birth to 4 children, where she had learned to cook for ranch hands, where she had sat on the porch with Austin watching countless sunsets. She was buried beside him on a hill overlooking the ranch, their headstones side by side as they had been in life. The ranch continued through their descendants, generation after generation working the land and honoring the legacy of the couple who had built it. The story of Austin and Amanda became family legend, told and retold to children and grandchildren, a reminder that love can emerge from the darkest circumstances, that kindness can change lives, and that 2 people working together can build something that lasts. The house still stands today, preserved by the Edwards family as a monument to their ancestors. Visitors can see the porch where Austin and Amanda spent countless evenings, the kitchen where Amanda learned to cook for her new family, the rooms where their children were born and raised. Pictures line the walls, showing a handsome cowboy and a beautiful woman, their faces changing over the years but their eyes always holding the same warmth when they looked at each other. But more than the physical structure, what endures is the story itself. A woman arrived by carriage with a secret shame, desperate and afraid, seeing no path forward. A lonely cowboy gave her a reason to smile again, not knowing he was saving himself in the process. Together, they built a love that transcended its unlikely beginnings, that weathered every storm, that created a legacy of family and hard work and unwavering devotion. It was a story of second chances, of the redemptive power of compassion, of how the most profound connections can arise from the most unexpected circumstances. It was proof that the future is not determined by the past, that shame need not be permanent, and that love, real love, sees beyond circumstances to the person beneath. In the end, Austin and Amanda Edwards lived exactly the life they had built together, one day at a time, one challenge at a time, always side by side. The lonely cowboy found his purpose. The frightened woman found her strength. And together, they found a love that lasted not just a lifetime but generations, inspiring all who came after them to believe in the possibility of transformation, redemption, and happily ever after. Their story reminds us that we never know when someone will enter our lives and change everything. That a simple act of kindness can ripple through time, affecting people not yet born. That the measure of a life is not where we start but where we end up, not the mistakes we make but how we recover from them, not the loneliness we feel but the connections we forge. Austin Edwards was just a lonely cowboy working a small ranch in Texas. Amanda Ortiz was just a frightened woman fleeing a scandal, but together they became something remarkable. They became a family. They became a love story. They became proof that even in the harsh reality of the frontier, where life was hard and unforgiving, beauty and tenderness and lasting devotion could still flourish. And that, perhaps, is the truest happy ending of all.